The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
All right, LJ. Well, let's get on to some talk about the weekend. LJ, I believe we have a couple series that we want to touch on here.
We had some teams not have things go the way they expected them to this weekend. Brandon, who blew the weekend more, San Diego or Atlanta?
LJ, both of those teams are not doing so hot right now. San Diego's currently in the middle of a 5-game slide. Atlanta's on a 4-game slide. And let's look at the teams that they played this weekend. Atlanta plays Toronto up in Toronto. Certainly a challenging series for them and one that I was keeping a close eye on. That's two of the better teams in the league right now. And Toronto really handled business. You know, they had a comeback win on Sunday after the Acuna homer early, and they end up walking it off. And Chris Bassett, LJ, you see what he did this weekend? Chris Bassett versus Spencer Strider, you know, both really good pitchers, and Chris Bassett comes out here, complete game shutout, 9 innings, 8 Ks. Love to see that. Only 2 hits allowed. You know, I'm gonna side with I'm gonna say that San Diego blew the weekend more because in the past the Padres have said, like players have said on the Padres, we have to beat the Dodgers. We have to be better playing against the Dodgers because sure, like in the playoffs last year we got the best of them, but look what's happened in the regular season the last 2 years. You know, LJ, we've been a little bit behind what the Dodgers are doing, and easiest way for us to catch up is playing better against them in the regular season. And LA comes in and just dominates this weekend. And you know, when is Memorial Day? 2 weeks?
We are 2 weeks away from the end of the unofficial first season.
LJ, the Padres are still 3 games under 500. I know it's still early, but to be at the end of the first season, our unofficial first season, to be under 500 potentially still, and 7 games back from the division lead, a game and a half back from the wild card. It's pretty scary, especially when you look at some of these other teams that are trending upwards, like the Mets a little bit, I guess. St. Louis has been playing well lately. Those are teams that have gotten off to rough starts. It's scary for the Padres right now. I'm not throwing the towel in, of course. Way too much talent, way too much time left, but they're definitely not in a good spot here, and not what a lot of their fans expected on May 15th.
Brandon, this is clearly a massive blown weekend for Atlanta, and they're the ones who blew this more because I feel like they have more at play and more to prove here. For starters, let's touch on San Diego real quick. I need to remind you that they are not second in this division. They are third, alongside a Arizona team who honestly finally looks like they could probably hold up through the entire season. I believe it was 2 years ago that they had a really hot start and we're looking pretty good. The pitching staff has looked formidable for a number of years now, but it didn't look like it was going to last down the stretch, and no one really believed that. This is a team that
lost like 110 games. Yeah.
This team can definitely finish above 500.
Yes.
So
yes.
In my eyes, the pressure to beat the Dodgers, I mean, yes, you would like to come away with a game or so, but the pressure to beat the Dodgers shouldn't matter right now when you're 19-22. You should be focused on getting ahead of Arizona. So, setting your expectations too lofty will always result in disappointment and letdown. And that's kind of the situation that you're dealing with them as well. And, talking about Atlanta, that's really where the blown side is, because who had more to prove with these matchups? The team that's in third place chasing the second place team while playing the first, or the clear runaway first place team who isn't getting any pressure, mind you, from their division. Things have held pat over the last 10 days. We're talking about a 5-5 Atlanta team. Behind them, they've got a 5-5 at 500 Philadelphia team.
The
So,
definition of mid right there. Just
yeah,
mid.
precisely. They've had a mid couple weeks and a mid season. Well, not exactly mid because they are minus 22 on run differential. Either way, they've lost no ground in the skid. Atlanta has. So they're not facing any pressure in that regard. So what's the other step and the other reaction? How are you performing against top level teams? How does this team stack up as a potential playoff team? And that's where they're failing miserably. After a sweep of the Marlins in Miami, they have now gone 3-6 against playoff opponents over the last 2 weeks. That's a tough sign for a team that won a World Series 2 years ago, and we keep talking about as this potential dynasty that they're going to get back and they're going to win a couple more over these next stretch of time. People always think is realistic, but here you have your core, mostly healthy outside of that pitching staff, and you're not putting together results against top-level teams. That needs to change, especially with the schedule coming up, because they're not going to get a relief until about the 25th. Because you go from getting swept by the Blue Jays, you drop a game on Ozzie Albies chain night, mind you. Drop a game to the Red Sox.
How could you on Ozzie Albies chain night, LJ?
I couldn't tell you. But you drop that game, you get swept by the Blue Jays, and are now going to face the first place Texas Rangers. That's already a daunting situation. You get maybe a bit of a reprieve for a couple days over the weekend with this Seattle series. But even then, this is a 6-4 Seattle team right now, finally back above 500. That's not necessarily an easy situation either, especially if they're starting to finally heat up and play like the team we expect.
No, they've been mid
got that,
also.
then you've
They're
got
20-20. 20-20 with a bad offense right now. I mean, they have the worst batting average in the league as a team.
They're bound to turn things back around at some point here. I don't think either of us have given up on Seattle as a playoff team.
The offense just scares me a lot, like a lot, LJ.
I mean, and rightfully so. You've mentioned this. If you can't hit the ball, we've said this time and time again, or at least I've said it, firm believer, you need to be able to put the ball in play, not the on-base percentage stuff. This is where the nerds get too involved. A batting average 100% matters in baseball because you need that to build variety and to actually seal the deal, because the odds of somebody, the odds of getting a Brooks Kriske inning to magically finish things off is, very unlikely. So really, you need that offense, you need that contact hitting. But when you look at the guys on this team, I'm not entirely I'm not wholesale out on them getting to that point. I'm certainly not banking on the fact that Julio Rodriguez is only going to have a 215 batting average for the rest of the season. Eugenio Suarez, a guy like that, yes, that's possible. Another guy, Teoscar Hernandez, really probably shouldn't be around there too. They could use some more depth, but at the end of the day, they could be ready to turn it on, and that would be a big problem for Atlanta heading into a series against the Dodgers. Once you get to the Phillies and the A's, then you've got your smooth sailing for a minute. But if they're not able to pull things together against top teams right now, as mind you, they blew a lot of chances to come out of Toronto with a win. If you can't get that together, you're not going to have very much success.